Guys, thank you so much for listening to this interview. I had such a blast here talking today with John the Ninja Podcast, by the way. That's the @ on Instagram. Be sure you go check out my socials, my Twitter, bullbossjosh, my Instagram, bullbossjosh with a couple of underscores. It's all linked on bullbossjosh.com. Everything's there for you, everything you could ever hope for. Straight content, gay content, trans content, solo content. I got it all for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's John the Ninja. God. Oh, sorry, Lord, almost used your name in vain. But that's okay, considering the subject matter we're going to be talking about. I'm a little too excited. I'm slurring my words, but Toronto, stand up. Canada, stand up. Basically, every single province in that place, stand up. I have a man that is the true pride of Canada. No stereotype. He is a loving man, he's a caring man, and he's a businessman. He puts the foot down and puts his head down and goes on the grind. But that's not to take away that he's a loving individual, that he's a person that truly understands and appreciates art. He's a bowler, he's a baseball player, he's a musician, and he is a digital content creator. And he's won quite a few awards, ladies and gentlemen. This guy and me have a lot in common, but the one thing he is doing is he's building an enterprise. He's building a business. And he's won quite a few awards already in Canada. Now, the man I'm talking about is Bull Boss Josh. Damn, that's a cool name. Bull Boss Josh. That sounds like a Power Ranger phrase. Bull Boss Josh time or something. But the man has gone on to be one of the most important figures in the Canadian pornographic industry. Having started on Twitter, just trying to find himself, do fun things sexually, he ended up amassing over 500,000 followers very quickly just for a video he did for fun. Wondering and testing the waters and finding a new passion, he continued to experiment and broaden the horizon up to the point where he finally dove headfirst into the pornographic industry, not only going from Canada but to the United States and learning the ins and outs, learning the business side as well as building an industry. Having a heart and concern for how certain things were being conducted, he created his Bullpen series, a safe environment, not only bringing Canadian collaborators together to have fun, but also create a different experience, create a different style of production. So Canada could not only have its own name and be able to stand on its own without the United States, but also bring such wonderful and caring people together. He is one of the top 1.2% on OnlyFans. And again, I've already stressed how many followers he has across not just OnlyFans, but all walks. We're talking many vids, we're talking Instagram, we're talking Twitter. The man is known, the man is great, and I digress, ladies and gentlemen. I really want to get into this interview because the dude is cool as hell. Actually, I forgot to put my damn baseball cap on. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give to you Bull Boss Josh. Good sir, how are you doing?
I am so well. Thank you for that intro. What an intro. Holy, I can't say I've ever had an intro quite like that before on a podcast. I'm flattered. Thank you.
You just being nice, man. If y'all don't know, Josh is also a radio connoisseur too, so he knows the get up, he knows the deal. But before we dive into this wonderful life you've lived, man, we are both very very passionate baseball fans. I wanted to know how you're doing with your Blue Jays in the World Series right now.
Well, so I will admit that the last three times I wore my jersey and hat during the game or at any point in time, they lost that day. So that's why I'm not wearing it today, or I would have shown up in my full baseball grub. Last night was a tough one, and I don't think I have the mental capacity for any more baseball. So I'm really glad that tonight's, game seven is going to be over because the Blue Jays are the pride of Canada, and they are our baseball team. They're Canada's team, and it's a pretty big deal up here. Is it a Blue Jays hat you're wearing right there, or what?
No, this is a New Jersey
What you
hat,
got
man.
on?
This is my
Oh,
Nets.
yeah, Nets hat on. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
man.
okay.
Yeah, we got to hook you up.
Appreciate it.
Who's your team?
Honestly, it's between the Phillies and Mets.
Okay, I mean, well, there's potential there. There's money there. You're good.
I did want to dive into that passion because, like I said, my team was terrible. We couldn't ground the ball. I was always catcher, so I'd be there for like an hour an inning, just miserable physically. But the love and passion I have for the sport, it is a thinking man's game, but it's right then and there. It's fast and furious. How did you fall into baseball? Because you said at one time that's your solace. That's how you relax when you're playing.
That's true, yeah. So I've just always been really hand-eye coordinated. and gifted when it came to doing athletic sports, stuff like baseball, bowling, basketball, everything like that. So it was just something I did growing up and was always passionate about. I just didn't know anything different. Just baseball was summertime, bowling was a wintertime thing up here in Canada. We have like a special form of bowling that is like basically exclusive to the country. And so I've just, I've done that my whole life, and it has always been a passion and a relaxing thing for me. And well, I mean, for the most part, until the Blue Jays are in the World Series in Game 7, then it's not so relaxing. But otherwise, yeah, no, it is always going to be a passion, to the point where I used to have a really shitty old tribal tattoo here underneath this, and I needed it covered up. And what better than to get, my Blue Jays, if you can see, that's my Blue Jay.
Could you elaborate on that bowling? Because I have to say I've been very, very fortunate that my dad was so well versed in all sports: golf, baseball, basketball, and bowling was one of those things every weekend without fail, Saturday or Sunday. We would go to the alley, and it got so inspirational. The guys there would even go down the lane and throw my ball back if it started curving to the side. It's like, no, you could redo the twist. We're gonna get you that hook.
Yeah.
But that Canadian league, I heard. I've only heard rumors about it. Like, we don't know anything that's happening up there as far as
Sure.
the pro scene. What is that entailing? And are you also a pro of that? Because you're also a pro in baseball to an extent as well.
Not anymore. But in bowling, yeah. So in bowling, I tour around and I play cash tournaments and I compete provincially and that kind of thing when I make the teams anyway. But like it's called five pin. And so instead of the 10 pins, right, there's five pins, and the pins all have a rubber around them. It creates this extra bounce and movement. And you have a small little ball, and you can really whip the shit out of this little ball. But the real difference is the accuracy. You really have to be very, very accurate. Spares are tough to come by. If you don't hit that head pin on just the right side of it, you're probably not going to get a strike. And so it's a very frustrating sport. But in Canada, it is highly competitive. We have 10 pin as well. We have regular bowling. I do it more for fun. Because when I five pin bowl, it's not so much for fun. It's more of it's just another source of frustration and stress. But I guess at times it can be fun when I'm bowling really well. But yeah, that's basically like the gist of it. It's like each pin's worth a different value, but the scoring's essentially the same idea.
Do you think you thrive off of that stress? Because even before our interview and a couple of other things I have happening, man, there's a lot of anxiety, and you've dealt with anxiety in different levels of the human condition. And for something like this, it doesn't click into a positive till like 5 minutes, 10 minutes out. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this now. But prior to, it's just like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be good enough. It's gonna be an issue. Do you think
Yeah.
part of it is you thrive on the challenge more so?
I 100% perform better under stress and anxiety, and it's not intentional. I don't want that to be my reality, but it is my reality. And it's, probably a symptom of ADHD that I've struggled with my whole life. But oftentimes, deadlines are pushed. Everything's can be last minute. I do my best to be proactive nowadays. I just have no real choice. I have so much happening now with the content house. I have a new association off the ground in two countries, and there's just not enough time for me to procrastinate anymore. And so I think that being under stress has always really helped continue to push me. It may not be the most mentally healthy way to approach, anything, but it has worked for me. My therapist has been amazing, and she has really helped me kind of figure out proactive ways of doing my work without having to be stressed and anxious about it all the time.
And I did want to hit the therapy aspect, not only because men's health and the mental health with not just the pandemic, but people in this generation being way more open to talk about things instead of bottling it up. When you were mentioning how you're conducting your everyday, which I thought was interesting, considering not just the sports, but you were also a musician and you were trying really hard to do that. I wonder what really was the new ground she broke with you as far as structuring your day. For people with ADD, it's kind of weird because unless there's that deadline, you're kind of all over the place until you have to do this thing, and there's a loss of time mentally. Like an
Yeah.
hour to somebody else is like a couple of seconds to us. So how did she help you in understanding, like, well, with or without medications, the way I structure my day, and then hitting the structure, actually doing it? Because you said it did
Yeah.
wonders for you when you did content creating for doing your videos and stepping away before burnout.
So there's two elements to it. I think the best element to it is realizing that you have to have a realization about what it is you're doing and your expectations, and that even though you may feel like you're not doing enough, that you are doing enough, and that you're probably doing more than most people. That's what she's really helped me realize through our conversations, is that the amount of time and work I put into things is astonishing and to her, and that helped me realize, like, okay, if I had to take a step back or I needed a day off, that is not going to be the end of the world. I think that's an important realization for anybody that struggles with that, is that you're going to be fine and you can take a break and it's okay. And then I think the second part of it all is the physical structure of your day, and making a concerted effort to have a schedule. Get up at a certain time, do things at a certain time, schedule time to be on your socials, schedule time to be answering messages, schedule time for meetings, whatever it is you have to do, and then schedule your downtime too, and schedule those events or hobbies in your life that you need to escape from the day-to-day grind, because it's important. You can't just be working 24 hours a day. You will burn out. It doesn't matter how resilient you are. I'm as resilient as they come. I have a day job still. I have this content realm that I'm involved in. I run a content house. I run an association online. I have hobbies, and there's not enough time in the day, but I can only do so much. And I just maximize that time as best I can. And that's really helped alleviate a lot of that anxiety, is that I know that I'm still doing a lot. I'm still working harder than the next person. And even if it doesn't feel like I've accomplished as much as I wanted to, I know deep down inside that I did. Right? It's like you really got to have that realization.
What gave you the permission to go after therapy? For me, I'm a big WWE fan. I don't know if it's still. Hey, God bless the Canadians. Y'all produce some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Shout out to Kenny Omega. But it for me, asking for help has never been difficult because I always took the approach of, if this is legal and it will get me to the next step, I don't care how stupid it makes me look. I don't care how ridiculous. I'm a complain about it, like, man, I look like a jackass. But I've always had the blessing of being willing to ask for help, and I know that's when I talk to some very close male friends of mine or family members. That is just like a no go. That's like it's not even a pride thing at that point. It's like losing yourself. What was the moment you said, you know what, this is the route I need to take for myself?
I started to kind of hit like an emotional rock bottom, with the anxiety, and started to get very depressed, feeling like I wasn't able to keep up professionally. And it was just a matter of being forced to do it. I've always been a proponent for therapy. Like, I get it, and I just hadn't done it before. And I just felt like it might be my only answer, or at least it could help, because things weren't going to get a lot worse in terms of the way I was feeling about my day. And I knew I couldn't continue on that path. So it was just a matter of going and doing it. I've never felt ashamed about doing something like therapy or pulling over and asking for directions. But this is prior to Google Maps, so I'm old, okay? Um, I've never had shame for that kind of thing. I don't get why people are so afraid to get help when they need help. I mean, that's what it's there for. And there's it's an honorable thing to accept that about yourself and then to improve yourself. It's something I've always done in my life, whether it came to my work, my hobbies, my tattoos, my physical health, whatever it is. I've always wanted to take the next step in it and continue to improve, especially as I age, because you have to be proactive about that kind of stuff or you'll fall apart. So maybe it's just an overall mentality that I've taken on, is that I just don't accept these weaknesses and these things that affect me. Like, I accept that they exist, but I don't accept living with them. And I'm going to try to take that next step to improve my life no matter what.
I really thoroughly love the fact not only do we love the same things, like we have a very, very strong interest in our hobbies and our profession, but both of our dads were in radio. And I love that. And when I was watching your interviews, when I saw you conducting yourself, I saw the magic in how you speak to people. I saw you understanding, like, this is how they're feeling, let me do this, let me adjust, you're masterful in speaking to people and conveying your thought, which, like I said, is really, really appreciated. I wanted to know how you yourself went into radio, and what lessons you took from that?
Truthfully, radio hasn't been a big part of my life for a really long time. Um, I have a good voice for it, more of maybe an old school style voice for it. I don't know. But I've always really loved it, and I went to school in Toronto for it. And ultimately, what it came down to is radio doesn't pay, and it was really tough to get good paying work. And I just went in other directions. It's really what it boiled down to. Um, it's always been something I've been passionate about. Like I'm a huge Howard Stern fan. I love Howard. I only have Sirius radio because of Howard, and as soon as he's not on the air anymore, I won't have it. Um, so I've always been a big fan of radio and the broadcast craft. But I wish I could say it was still a part of my life. I will say with my new association, we do have a podcast that is associated with that. It is not officially launched, but we are going to officially launch it at the next Bullpen Content House, which is next weekend, takes place next weekend. And so episodes from the performers and little tidbits from our interviews will start getting released relatively quickly after that. And all of that's linked on my webpage.
And I wanted to also stress that idea because now, at least in the American pornographic industry, it's much better as far as the outward appearance of people talking like, oh, this happened to me on set in the 90s and the early 2000s. Some very, very egregious stories seem to have, gone away, but it's still happening in Canada. And I love the idea that this podcast would highlight, like, no, this was a negative situation that I survived, and here's how I survived it.
Mhm.
Was there a particular person or experience that you went through that made you think, no, we really have to talk about this out loud and get these stories heard?
It wasn't something that happened to me personally, but there are things that I've seen happen to people close to me that kind of prompted all of this for me. And it really took hold when performers started getting banned from the United States, from traveling from Canada to the United States to work. People who have modeling contracts in LA who fly there constantly to work were now being like flagged at the border and no longer allowed in the country. That kind of thing really bothered me. And I think it, not even on a personal level, not because it could affect me, which it still can, but more that it's just so unjust and that this industry has always been treated poorly. And it never got the respect it deserves as a true profession like any other profession. And so our new association, Pearl Industry Network, is being created right now to address these problems. And there's a world of issues in this industry that need to be addressed. And we are extremely passionate about finding those fixes and cures and implementing them into our system and creating a safe hub, not just for Canadians at all, but for people in the United States who are going to be just as impacted by political decisions as our travel has been. Um, who knows what the pornographic landscape is going to look like in 4 more years? I mean, it's not looking good. And we want to be ready and we want to be set up for people when they need help.
I always wonder why the conservative values are still so strong against it when it's pretty much let bygones be bygones. Because over in Europe, I forget which country, but they actually had a president that was a pornographic starlet. And I always question how people within themselves deal with their sexuality. When it came to you finding out that you were omnisexual, even the concept to me, I'm kind of like, I'm not. I don't know why you'd be mad if they said you were gay, man. You're omnisexual. It's still difficult for me to wrap my head around finding a particular comfortability of like describing your sexuality. When it came to you, not just growing up, but we are aware that you were married, you were doing swinging, you like couples, you're more dominant. That is your range. What was that realization process like for you, trying to figure out who you were as the entity in sex?
Well, I always knew who I was. I always knew the things that I wanted to do and wanted to experiment with. But, just male guy culture growing up, and you just didn't kind of talk about that kind of stuff. Um, and then it was just a matter of finding the right partner and experimenting freely, little uninhibited. couple of years where I really got an opportunity to learn who I truly was sexually and what I wanted to do. And then when the content world happened, it was just this perfect storm of like, well, I already know what I'm comfortable with. I know what I want to create. Um, I just create what I get off on. And that's it. That's my whole method is whatever I thought was sexy before and what I was watching on Twitter before I was a creator is the very thing I'm now still creating to this day because if I'm finding it that sexy, then someone else is too. And if I can help somebody come out or I can help somebody experiment sexually where they may have been afraid to before, but they see me out there doing it, I mean that's just amazing, right? If I can help somebody come to that realization of who they are and just be able to live their life.
Did you have a feeling of that yourself? Was there a particular person that really gave you that go ahead? I was thinking of an interview you did. You mentioned Eric Everhard. When I think of what he says sexually and those lessons, for me, every time he talks about it, I don't get that lesson from it. So he'll talk about how to survive in the bedroom and this and that, but somehow I'll skew it in my mind. It's like this. It's not a sexual lesson. It's a self belief lesson, and
That's right.
it's always more so like his quotes end up being like my quote for like going to work or something like that. It's not really
That's
we're
right.
not getting it. I was wondering if there was a person like that that kind of opened the door to you having this realization for when you were experimenting and truly being able to go after what you wanted.
Truthfully, there isn't an individual that led me in that direction at all, other than my partner. We just decided that it was something we wanted to try, and I've just always been really confident. Like again, not confident enough to come out and tell people exactly how I felt sexually because it just wasn't anybody's business. But I've always been confident in what I wanted to do with a partner and what I wanted to experiment with. So once I got the opportunity to do those things, it was nice validation for me to be like, hey, I actually am into this. This is great. It wasn't just curiosity. This is who I am, and now I'm gonna get to have some fun with it.
You said porn is your passion, and you already had a love of porn prior to. You had a respect for it. I was wondering what that respect was. Was it more so the idea of like, hey, these are performers, the art, or was it more so the love of like, hey, I can express myself through this? And what did you take from that love and translate it into your passion? Was there any techniques or ideas that you really had to jump on?
What I love about it is that it's in us all. We're all sexual creatures, whether we admit it or not. Even people who will never hear this show and will denounce porn for religious beliefs and all their bullshit. They're sexual creatures too. And this is a job like any other job, and it deserves the respect of any other profession because until you understand what it truly means to be on a set or in front of a camera and you have to be vulnerable in that position and stay hard and perform and not only just stay hard and be able to do a job but to make it a performance and make it something somebody wants to witness, that is a challenge if it's not something you're experienced in. And it can take a lot of time to adjust. I'm still adjusting to it. I still struggle with it at times. I'm sure some of the best performers out there have horror stories of their set days taking forever because it wasn't working that day. Obviously, there's ways around that now, but mentally, you've got to be there mentally because you are taken out of that romantic, intimate moment of a one-on-one with a partner behind closed doors. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist physically, and it doesn't exist in your mind. And if you're a generally anxious person like I am, you can really get in your head about what you're doing. And once you get in your head about it, it doesn't matter what drugs you take or what you inject into your dick, it's not working. You have to be confident in you have to minimize that anxiety and nervousness one way or another. And whether it's through s- constant self-belief and practicing that self-belief or talking yourself up or just having the experiences over and over again, which does help. Whatever it is, you've got to do what you've got to do in order to perform. And it can be a challenge. I mean, really, it's something.
Could you take us back to when you did the first bullpen session and you said you ran into the anxiety, but you were also doing a lot. You were physically exhausted. You had to set
Yeah.
everything up. So not only do you have the pressure from, oh, I did all of this stuff, and now you're physically tired, but now it's time to perform and you're struggling. Could you relate to us what you were thinking, and with the
Sure.
example you just gave us, how you were able to combat that?
Yeah, sure. I can absolutely talk about that. That was, I remember it like yesterday. So I had worked for a month or about a month or two to get this content house going. I drove that day 8 hours to the content house from where I was living at the time and picking up people along the way, dealing with my socials all day, picking up groceries, getting to the house, unpacking, setting up lights, unpacking groceries, cooking dinner, trying to organize everybody. All the performers hadn't even shown up yet. Some of them were late, some of them were delayed. Flights kept getting delayed. Our last performer didn't show up, I think, until about midnight or 1 a.m. And now I'm up at like 5:30 every day. That's just when I get up, whether I want to or not. And so I was exhausted. I don't stay up past 11 p.m. my time, like ever. I don't remember the last time I saw midnight. And um, so we finally want to start this blow bang scene that we're doing. Thankfully, that's all that scene was because that was relatively minimal work for us guys. Not for the ladies; they had to work a lot. But once we got going, we finally got going. Everyone showed up and showered, and it must have been 1:30, 2 o'clock. I can't remember exactly, but it was very late. I'm done, man. I'm so done. And now I got to do this thing, and just nothing. I got nothing in the kitchen. It's just not happening. And I know it right away. And I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? Like, I guess maybe I just won't be in the scene. I don't know. And so I just excused myself real quick. I didn't say anything. I'm just like, hey guys, I'll be right back. And I ran off to a bathroom, which felt like 20 minutes I was in there. And I'm just jerking off. I'm just trying to get it going. I'm trying to get the juices flowing. I'm trying to get out of my head about it. You know when you're that tired, you almost feel like lightheaded, like you're just out of it. That's where I was at, and I just couldn't get it working. And Eric Everhard talked a little bit about this in that interview, and probably in his book too, where he talked about just getting to that 10%. I don't know if you ever recall him talking about that. You get to that 10%. Once you get some flow going and some feeling in there, you're good. Because once you feel it, you're like, oh, there it is, and you can capture that and then keep going, which I did. I looked at the behind the scenes footage and I was gone for 8 minutes, which at the time, like I said, felt like a lifetime. Felt like I was gone 20, 25 minutes. But I got it back. And once I got it back, I just ran out and it was a totally different mentality once I was out there. I was just having fun and it was like this blow bang. So the guys were all making out and they're blowing each other and we were just having this great time. And then we were able to wrap it up and clean up and go to bed. And I didn't really think anything of it after that. But there were moments during that process that I was sure I wasn't going to be in the scene. And I was like, well, I guess I'll try again tomorrow, and just hope for the best. But I was able to make it happen. So that was a tough one. That self-doubt creeps in as soon as you get in your head. And then it's like, okay, I need to escape this space for a minute and see if I can get it back. And if you can find yourself a quiet spot and talk yourself up. It's really helpful.
And I always think about how body control, that's more stuff he talks about. But even stuff when I was younger, they used to have like real sex stories. And on Fox, they had this one time they were talking about people being able to orgasm without touching. They would just sit there and then mentally actually get themselves into the state, whether guy or girl, and actually physically have an orgasm. You've done a lot of that type of work where it's not edging, but you're having somewhat of an orgasm, but you're not fully. It's like you said, you're coming without coming. I'm not entirely sure how to express that, but I wanted to know when you figured out how you were able to do that. Is there anything else you've been able to describe as far as being able to control your sexual actions?
Yeah. So what
Right.
that was always just I would just always edge for really long periods of time, years and years ago, like my whole adult life. I would love to just open up my computer and like throw on like 10 tabs of porn and just spend an hour, edging. And through that process, you sometimes come by accident or you get really, really, really close. And I just learned to kind of ride this little up and down high, right at the end, right at the point of no return. And it just became kind of a mastering of my muscles in that area and my mind and just really learning my body and myself and being able to just teeter there. And once I could teeter and control that, at any point in time, I can flip that switch and just kind of let it go over the edge a little bit, but without having an orgasm. And if you just get it over that edge. I don't know how else to describe it, but if you just get it past that point just enough, you can bust a little bit, and then you just keep going. It still feels good. You still have yet to come, like you still have yet to have an orgasm, and then you just kind of keep going. And I can do that over and over again, like three, four, 5 times before there's basically nothing left. But it just took a lot of practice. There's a lot of jerking off.
There is a moment where you know the trigger is going to be pulled no matter what. It's
Yeah,
going to release the semen, but you're like holding on, and you're like, oh, I'm good, and then nope, nope.
that's right.
As soon as that, so is it that moment where you're feeling like, oh, I'm going to, and you're just, hold on, nope, pull it back? Because one thing that is fascinating to me is stories I've read about where you compare real life versus the pornographic industry. Some performers will have an orgasm and then they will continue to be with the girl. They will insert themselves back in and maintain the erection. Versus guys who say as soon as they pop, that's it. It's gone. It recedes. So that's kind of the fascinating idea I have with what you're saying. Like somehow you're able to be on that line, but it's a totally different thing.
Yeah. I think that everybody's just a little bit different. Like not everybody can do it. Not everybody can stay hard and keep going after they've come like fully. I've been able to do that too, but not all the time. And it just depends. There was a time years and years ago where I was taking testosterone when I shouldn't have been. And um, I could just keep fucking like over and over. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? So it could just be maybe some of these guys are doing that, or maybe they're just elevated testosterone naturally, or maybe they're just so hypersexual that it's something that they're just capable of. I mean, it's who knows? There could be a few different reasons. That is a tough one to do all the time, but like I said, I've done it a few times, and it is pretty fun. It just takes a couple minutes, and you kind of get back into it, and that feeling comes back. You're like, all right, I'm good to go again. But it's not always the case, especially as you age. Maybe that's a younger man's game. I don't know. Maybe that's a 20-year-old game.
I can't speak on that. The only thing I could say, and God forbid it ever happens, whiskey dick is the one thing I don't get personally, but my experience with women is totally different. Like as soon as I get the go ahead, I'm like, hey, it's not coming down.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It
I had experience with whiskey dick before. I don't drink anymore, but yeah, I knew that if I got drank a little bit too much, it wasn't really happening. I mean, I could still get it up and do my thing, but I might not get all the way there, you know?
is there other things that hinder you? Because again, you've also said not only have you scheduled your life, but you said you started eating healthier again, started taking supplements. What do you particularly go out of your way to have to maintain your health as far as the work you're doing?
Exercise, 100%. Lifting weights in the gym, getting cardio in. If that exercise comes from your hobbies like baseball, whatever it is, exercise has always been the thing that has made me feel normal, and energetic and positive. And being positive minded, I mean, we're talking physically, but mentally is way more important. Trying to be happy mentally, because before I saw my therapist for the first time, like I was really down and it was getting harder to create my videos at home, let alone performing, because I never wanted it to feel like work. I always wanted to just have fun, show my natural fun on camera and have people consume that content. And once it started to become work and pressure and scheduling and everything else, it was hard for me to adjust to that. And I had a really hard time. Like I have to jerk off or I have to make a new video because it's been X amount of days and my subscribers are going to get mad. And so the pressure crept in and that made it very difficult. But again, therapy really helped with that. Once I got around those feelings of necessity and pressure, I was able to kind of get back into the zone and enjoy what I was doing again.
Love what you're doing with the bullpen because you're creating a safe space. What I'm also in awe of is your ability to be an entrepreneur and get all the information you need as far as the legal, the taxes. I know that story where you had a tax person, but they weren't really well versed with the industry, and then you found another person who was and knew all the nooks and crannies. Just totally fascinating with being able to actually do it. I wanted to know, when it came to the bullpen, you had the idea. What was the first actual action that set it in motion? Because you did go to a couple of exoticas, went to different conventions, and you said you kind of had to open yourself up. And once you did, man, the networking went crazy. I wanted to
Definitely.
know, was that the moment where the bullpen really had its initial start, or was there a defining moment you said, no, I'm going to do this?
No, it was because I live in a at the time I lived in a very isolated area and collaboration was difficult. Combined with my friend who had been banned from entering the United States, that was the final trigger for me where I went, okay, you know what? We need to find a way to do this here then. Because if it's going to be increasingly difficult to travel there for collaborations, then we need to do it ourselves. And whatever that looks like, if that's us getting as many Canadian creators together as possible and including US creators or whoever, but we got to do it here. And that's really what it came down to. And it was that there was enough people who were interested within that first 4 or 5 weeks. That's all I had to plan that first house. And there was enough interest that I thought, okay, we can make this happen. I think we had 9 people, and 2 of them dropped off by the time the shoot happened, but that always happens. So I think we filmed it with 7, and that was enough. We had Tony Genius come up, Rocco Man came up from the United States. Those guys came up to help us out, and we had an amazing time. But that was the catalyst for it. Was the final straw for me was seeing somebody that I know denied entry, and I was like, okay, we need to start acting here. We can't just pretend like this isn't a problem anymore. Why don't we create our own hubs in this country, in our major cities, where we can create something that people want to come to us for and not the other way around? And however long that takes, if it's 1 bullpen or 5 bullpens, if it's 2, 3 years before I'm turning people away, then so be it. But that's what we feel we have here now. The second bullpen event, which takes place next weekend, is already much bigger than the first one. I've had since May to start planning it. Um, Again, I did it all by myself. It's been a lot of work, but it's there. Everybody's ready. I've got everyone's arrival times here. We've got a production team this time. It's really going to be off the hook. It's going to be 3 straight days of 12, 13 people creating content all over this place. It's going to be insane.
And I remember Max Magnum was telling you about that. It's like, hey, be careful, somebody might not show up, and he was giving you advice. With your first experience, what was the number one thing you were like, no, for the next go, we definitely have to do this? Because again, man,
Yeah.
I'm in awe of just you being by yourself. It's hard enough to run your own life as a person. You're now
Yeah,
orchestrating like 9 different people and their safety, their care, their
that's right.
comfortability. Everybody's different. It's such a difficult task to make sure everybody's pleased.
That's right. Yeah, it is very difficult. And I just have to have the right mentality going in and understanding that everybody's going to have different needs. Um, and even when it comes down to groceries, like it's very meticulous. I have everybody's food list and what their preferences are, and I'm going to have everything ready for them when they get there because I want everybody to be as comfortable as possible. But I would say the biggest difference, the biggest change I made was securing deposits. I didn't do that the first time. The first time was just kind of going on everybody's word, and you say you're coming. I hope you're coming, because I don't have a lot of backup people planned. If you say you're coming, and then obviously people didn't show up, and you couldn't get backup people, and so now this time through it was like we had an initial cost to the house before we had sponsors. Like this house is going to cost X amount for you to participate in, so I need a deposit from that, or I'm not putting you on the list. It's that simple. You gotta show me that you're serious about coming. And then once I got those deposits in and that list created, I created a little wait list just in case. Had some people in the waiting, and we went from there. And if I can just say before I forget, I always want to give credit to Max Magnum whenever humanly possible. He was absolutely my inspiration for how I would want to run a content house because I've never seen anything so professionally run. Um, with such a random group of people in my life. Him and his team do such an amazing job. I had a consultation call with Max prior to my first bullpen. Like, hey man, anything unforeseen that you face that maybe you could help me prepare for before this event. And he was so gracious to take that time and to kind of walk me through a couple of his issues. He's the best. Every chance I get, I love to throw some credit his way, and for their production, Casamax, however you want to pronounce that. They produce the best content house that exists, in my opinion. It is gay. It's gay only content house. We're more of a bi slash straight content house. So we do differ in those realms, but I still very much take a lot of the principal ideas and concepts from that inspiration, that initial inspiration. He's the best.
You've also won 2 awards for your Orphis.
Nominated.
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 That's not what they told me. They lied to me. That's not what we're telling the people. He won, damn it. He was cheated.
So I've been nominated for 3 GAVNs, 1 Grabbies, and 1 ICCA so far, and hopefully within a month here, a bunch more.
That nomination, I have yet to get such a nomination, a recognition in an industry that I've poured my heart and soul into. But the closest I've come is I had especially when I was relatively unknown, I had a agent reach out to me and said, "Hey, after working with this guy for 20 years, this is the best interview he's ever had. This is crazy." And the vindication of eating shit sandwiches for, close to 5, 6 years prior to that moment, it was like an alleviation of I'm doing the right thing. Can you go back and explain when you found out about the nomination? Did you feel the same? Like maybe things in life are finally starting to hit the way they should have been? Because sometimes it's not like, oh, I should have started earlier. Sometimes it's just, no, I got there when I needed to get there.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a huge moment. Excuse me. It was kind of unexpected, to be honest. I had looked up to all these performers who were winning these awards every year, and I never thought I would get nominated for something like that. But it was in the first year that I did content that I got my first nomination, and it was just for best cock. It was a fan award that gave you ends, but I'll take that. You know what I mean? Because at least it was a deserving nomination. I felt it wasn't like I was being nominated for something like best podcast without having a podcast or something. You know what I mean? It felt relevant. Um, but I was like just so taken aback by that. Like how cool to be able to be recognized like that. And then it almost became something I wanted every year. I wanted to work for every year and earn the right for this nomination. You know what I mean? I wanted to earn it. I didn't just want to get nominated for something because I have a following or something.
Mm-hmm.
So like the next year, I didn't really promote myself much in the GayVN realm because I was doing more straight content that year than I was gay content, and I just felt wrong promoting myself for GayVNs only. So I kind of promoted myself for both, and I didn't land an AVN nomination that year, but I did land 2 more GayVNs. So I was like, okay, that's great because I still want to be recognized for that work too. And so now this year we campaigned really heavily for an AVN nomination, and because I did do quite a bit of straight content, but not just created straight content, but I created some damn good straight content. If I have to admit, it really is fantastic looking stuff. And I just felt like it would be a deserving nomination for the work I put in this year, especially with the bullpen. So like we'll see what happens. Who knows? It's hard on the straight side of the industry to kind of break through and to get recognized there. It's a whole different world over there. But we'll see what happens. I mean, those nominations get released in about a month or so, but I'm always super grateful for anything, and not just GayVNs and GayVNs. Like the Grabbies were amazing to be nominated for that. The inaugural ICCAs, the International Content Creator Awards, that was a hit. That went off really well. They hosted that in Mexico. I almost was able to go to that, but unfortunately wasn't. But being nominated for something like that, especially in its first year, was really flattering. So, yeah, it's validation for sure. I feel like I've earned the right to be nominated for those. And if anything, it's just helping me to be motivated to work harder and to keep going and to win these awards and not just be nominated for them, but actually be recognized by winning them.
Well, you are on the precipice of it too, because when I think you've also mentioned you have a love for working with transgender individuals, males, girls, transgenders, but regardless of which side they're coming from when they transitioned, you have an enjoyment of doing that. And I think of Small Hands, I think of Xander, who have also dabbled in that. A couple others, I can't remember the other guy's name. He's a weird looking dude anyway. But you've mentioned it's probably Ramon or something. That's probably his name. You've
Okay.
mentioned that in order to survive in this industry, it's you versus everybody. Like as a male performer,
Okay.
everybody likes to show off their penis. For you, what did you believe was your niche? Other than all these fantastic traits you have of being a good dude, being personable with your fans. I still remember the story of that one guy that was waiting forever for you, and he finally got to you. You
Right.
guys had an amazing conversation. What do you feel really has been your main claim of like, no, I'm going to hop on this because this is what makes me different?
It was back watching Twitter videos before I was a creator and just seeing these because I really like watching dudes jerking off. And I was just watching these videos and I'm like, man, I could do that. I do that anyway. Like I do it better than that just in my spare time. And I wasn't seeing anything quite like what I do out there. So I just started filming it and putting it out there. It really is what it was. I always felt like that was always my strongest niche and still is my solo play. I take a lot of pride in my solo videos and the way I produce them. And my subscribers are still very much into that. And that is what you get on my OnlyFans page when you subscribe, like free. That's just on the page, all my solo stuff all the time. But it wasn't until, some time into it, a year and a half or so into it, where people were really asking about collaborations and doing things with other people, which I hadn't really considered. I wasn't planning on doing that ever. So I started doing edging videos. Like my first one was with the Edger 8. He's a famous edger from LA. He's fantastic. And so I did that, and then I started doing some one-on-ones with people, and then it was like, I could actually make this like a little side thing that I'm doing. I can do collaborations on the side, sell them as exclusive content and still focus on my solo, content on my pages. And that's what I've been doing now to this day, except on a much bigger scale when it comes to things like the bullpen and the collaborations that I do now. It's always a much bigger scale now with like a production assistant and that kind of thing. But it's just kind of where it led me, the passion for the industry just kind of led me as the doors continued to open. I was like, well, why not? Why not walk through that and see what's on the other side and see if I can handle it? I've always wanted to create porn. I never thought that I could. And like prior to being a creator, and so being a creator and putting those videos out there and putting myself out there, it just gave me the confidence that this is something I could do and hopefully succeed in. And it's a constant fight. You know what I mean? I'm out there every day, still pushing forward. Living up here in Edmonton, it's not like, it's still a big city, but like it's not like living in LA or Vegas or Miami where you just have access to everybody. It's still very challenging. So that's a whole thing that I have to work around, and I have to work 10 times harder than the next person to keep moving forward. And I'm up for that challenge for sure.
And especially because I told you we had a lot in common, except I'm not watching dudes. I'm actually watching music videos. Like, oh, I could play guitar better than that dude. So, but
Yeah.
it's the same feeling of I can do this. I have to do this, and I can only imagine the perfectionism that comes with it. Because when you take pride, like most of my videos, I have so many that I haven't posted or were great, but one little detail might not even be the note I'm playing. I'm like, I can't post that. That doesn't do justice to the real players
Right.
or the player that created the song. Letting go and being comfortable with putting yourself out there has been a big deal. You had the two family friend situation where they found out and you were still at home in the town where your family was at. And I constantly think about that. That was one of the things when I started interviewing porn stars. My thing is, I'm a bad Christian, but damn it, Jesus talked to everybody. So rock stars, porn stars, pastors, let's go. And I remember people at the radio station doing the same and not judging, being funny about it, indulging in it with them, but still holding true to their comfortability of who they were and being able to go like, no, this is me, take it or leave it. Very Metallica
That's
approach.
right.
I wanted to know how you've been able to, at least not even that. Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry, sir. How do you feel now in that area? There's always the difference between telling the family versus them finding out. How do you
Mhm.
feel now? Because once you start, everybody's gonna know when you put yourself out there.
Yeah, and it's happening now. My therapist has been amazing for that. That was another huge reason for me to go to therapy, was to try to navigate through the feelings that I was having about the fear of people finding out, people in my workplace, my family. What would happen, and how bad is this going to be? Is this storm going to just be a nightmare when it hits? Like, what's going to happen? And she really helped me through all of that. And now people are finding out. I'm getting text messages now. I wouldn't say regularly, but way more regularly than I want. I had a close friend of mine in my old town text me, "Hey, how's the movie career going?" That was the text. And I was like, "Oh, where'd you find me?" I'm just always curious where people found me, right? Because, you know, it can be in a number of different from a number of different avenues. But so I have like prepared statements essentially now for when this happens. And I've worded it perfect and I just send it out. This is what's happened. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And this is why it's okay. And I'm like, if you have any questions, I did a great interview for andrewchristian.com about keeping your content life separate from your real life and the challenges that exist with that. And it's linked in my on my Instagram and my highlights there if anybody wants to read that. It can be really comforting for people who are struggling through the same thing. And I always link that into those responses when people find out and text me now. And I say, just read this article, kind of give you some insight as to who I am and why I'm doing it and why I've kind of kept it secret. And I try to normalize it as best I can. I'm like, you were there consuming the porn. That's how you found me, right? What is it? You can't possibly be upset by this, right? Just because you found out it was somebody you know, like, and you didn't know that about me, like, okay, but now you know that about me. Now what? And everybody's been really cool, honestly, at least to my face. Everybody's been really cool about it. They've either been like kind of blown away, not knowing that I have this level of popularity, or they've just been kind of like, okay, no, I accept what you're doing. That's cool. And then we just kind of don't talk about it. But it's happening more and more. And I'll be honest, I'm still a little afraid of that. I don't want everybody to know. I don't want to lose my day job. Um, I don't want that. And it's a tough like tug of war in my brain as to like how I continue to grow without completely exposing myself to the world here or locally. Um, and I honestly don't have an answer for that. I think I'm just going to have to deal with them as they happen. And what the therapist really helped me with was I've made these decisions for a reason. I'm more passionate about this industry than I've been about anything else in my life ever. So there's no harm in that. And if people don't understand that, then I just remove them from my life and I carry on. It's that simple because I'm doing the thing I want to do. I'm not forced into this. I've made this decision and I just have to live with it. And sometimes it's going to be hard. And I think that's what people have to understand is not, there is no right answer. There's no easy way out of that. If you're afraid of people finding you or losing your job or your family disowning you, let them. Maybe they'll come around.
Having the experiences I've had, I always tell people I don't judge people for what they're doing with life. You don't know how desperate, you don't know this, but I know how difficult it is for a person to come to grips with them spiritually, whatever belief they have. And then you add the social pressures of wherever physical environment they're in. So I always say I only judge a little bit, but I'm always constantly trying to say in my head, like, you cannot judge somebody for making a decision when they have no map. That's not fair.
Yeah.
I always end these on the most important question. What's the best piece of advice that readily comes to mind that you've held on to?
So nothing that anybody's told me, but something that I figured out for myself through all of this is to follow your passion. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it feels wrong. Um, this industry has led me to places that I never thought I would be. It's opened up opportunities for me on a business level with my new association, with the bullpen, doing things that I never thought I would be able to do, and setting myself up for retirement and for a comfortable life, all because I followed a passion for an industry that's been shunned since the beginning of time. And I think it doesn't matter what it is your passion is. You won't you won't ever have a negative experience about yourself if you follow your passion, if you try. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if you try and you fail, at least you tried with your passion and you didn't just pass it off. You weren't too afraid to do it and then regretted it the rest of your life. Just do it, whatever it is. Follow that passion. It will always lead you to a better place. Whether it was the road you thought you'd be on or not, you'll end up in a better place. Because I certainly didn't think I'd be doing what I'm doing today when I started. I just wanted to make a little extra money. And now it's become my entire world. It's everything I think about all day, every day, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's really changed my life for the better. And the I think back to the moment where I decided to make content, and I'm almost afraid to think about what would have happened if I didn't. That's how much I enjoy where I am. It's like, wow, I almost didn't do this. So follow your passion no matter what it is. It'll lead you to a good place.
Good sir, that was so fantastically said. I gotta take the hat off to you. That was genius. But he is a genius, ladies, guys, women. No matter what you are, we love you. That was Bull Boss Josh. Guys, you gotta go check him out on Twitter and TikTok. It's Bull Boss Josh. There's on Instagram and Threads. You're gonna do at Bull_Boss_Josh. Go to his Reddit, u/BullBossJosh. I'm saying this for a reason, guys. There's literally the song. I hear it. I'll be like, Bull Boss Josh. So I just heard Bull Boss Josh. But
It needs to be
again,
a song.
don't forget to go check out his OnlyFans, Josh Boss, and also the Bullpen series. That is going to be Bullpen series, no spaces, on Instagram. Good sir, that was such a lovely chat. I'm in awe of what you're doing. I have to sincerely say again, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. It was a true pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It really was fun to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
And everybody else, be smart, be mindful. Rock on. Ninja out.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. It's been such a pleasure talking to John from John the Ninja Podcast. That's his Instagram, by the way, and his YouTube. Be sure to check out all of my socials, all linked on bullbossjosh.com. That makes it easy for you. Just go to bullbossjosh.com. I got my Twitter, my Instagram, my Telegram, my Blue Sky. I got all my paid sites, OnlyFans, ManyVids, Room 11. All these amazing sites are all there. You can't miss it. Go check it out. Thank you again, John. This has been such a fun interview. I can't wait to be back.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. Oh, your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.